Who are you kidding? Yeah, you are the Joker. You're the joke, you know.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Lyrebird Lounge, for hosting this special, spontaneous episode of the Vibe Union podcast. I believe episode 32 or so, roughly.
Can't believe it.
And I appreciate that Jimmy's ducking down to help with some of the stuff, but ducking down behind the camera. I think it's gone this way. It is a blessing, it's a privilege, it's an honor, and it is a somber one to acknowledge the fact that we are meeting and getting to do all of this on Wurundjeri and Bunwurrung land. We're right on the crossroads here, and it's actually quite interesting. I've had that conversation with someone as to like what happens when it's in that sort of grey area kind of space.
I want to know this answer.
Right?
Yeah,
because actually one time I did acknowledge the Bunwurrung people here, and we're in Ripon Lee, and so if you have answers, please do share. But I acknowledged the Bunwurrung people, and then someone pointed out that it was the Wurundjeri people who had claim over this area. And it's patently unclear, because if you look at any sort of mapping, it's not like they had like a physical dividing line, and it sort of describes, you know, the Maribyrnong River as the sort of south divider, but that doesn't obviously reach all the way to here.
Right, it's kind of like a moving line.
Sort of a moving line, and obviously over the span of 60,000 odd years. So from, you know, pure like humility, I just want to acknowledge the fact that this is obviously land that was, you know, tended to and cared for by both the Bunwurrung and the Wurundjeri people, and I'm sure there were other people, other peoples at different times as well.
Yeah.
And I think diving into that and understanding that is part of our responsibility, part of our journey and duty. So I'm in pure like somber humility, like, you know, more or less eating my hat to say that we don't fully know, but it is important that we kind of come to understand it better, and we hope that by understanding better and by going through this learning process, we can come closer to reconciliation and a more harmonious society. So I wanted to just sort of put that out there. I was quite in my head about which one I was going to say or how I was going to say it, but there we go. That's my ramble on that, and I appreciate the space to do it.
Brilliant. More than a rant, more than a necessity, more than housekeeping. It's the right thing to do. It's the right things to get things, the right way to get things kicked off down here. And it's you know, it can be hard to kick-start things unless you've got a circuit breaker in the mix. What's been going on, Ryan Emkew? It's your boy Dilly Dave out here just ripping it. Wanting to hear more about circuit breaker.
Well, we got locked down, baby. And I'm just going to quickly turn around to see if I'm coming through. I think I am quite fine. We got locked down again, but instead of being down about it, we... oh, look at this.
Hey.
Thanks, Kels.
That is a beautiful way to kick off a podcast. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Shout outs to First Assistant Kelsey.
We got locked down, but we weren't down and out. We instead turned to live streaming immediately, which we've done before, but we hit on such a different stride this time. Community vibes through a digital space have never been felt in such a energetic way.
Who would have thought that the comment section would ever be as nice as it was?
Oof. It's a beautiful thing. I actually really like live gigs online because you get to talk to people in the audience while you're doing it. Sorry, like audience members get to talk to other audience members live. I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah.
And direct without interfering with anything else. Yeah. So it's odd.
Yeah, exactly. The ability to heckle. I mean, I think probably like our second or third show here at Lyrebird Lounge, there was a moment or there was a group that came in that had nothing to do with us. Right?
Yeah,
they were just punters on a given Friday night, and they were chatting. And it was in that moment that it hit me that the 3 gigs prior, we'd basically performed to like a receptive and silent and attentive room.
Oh yeah, people were, it wasn't even respect, it was just like attention captured. It was just like being present. Everyone was just super present.
And there's that, I think, supportiveness of we all know one another, we all know the people performing, and it was really cool to see that. But yeah, the illusion or like the smoke and mirrors disappeared when just this random group of people who's like here to have a good time, grab a couple of drinks and like hang out. And they're talking and we're like, oh, wait, yeah, we didn't realize this, but that's kind of like not the done thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what else is not the done thing here. I'm not sure if anyone's recorded a podcast here at Lyrebird Lounge before.
Hey.
Just acknowledging the space again that we're in. But this is where we have kind of, a bit of a what's the word for it? A residency.
Yep.
Right. So we've done how many vibration variations?
This is vibration variation 14, less the one that counts at Usu. So this is our 13th gig here at Lyrebird Lounge coming up tonight.
13th gig, and first time doing a. I mean, it's not a live podcast, but doing it up on stage, bit of a dressed up a little bit, feels quite cool. I just want to acknowledge how cool it is. We've got some interesting lighting, the coolest backdrop. Shout outs by Amutha and a Vibe crew. Many beings of the multiverse put that together.
Oh yeah.
Sorry to derail what was ever happening.
I think coming back to what you were saying, the reason I was talking about this space is that ability to heckle or converse about what's happening, and I think it really speaks to the ethos of what we've been cultivating here. Even in I'll say this as an MC and say, look, from the moment you walk into this venue, even as a punter, even as a stranger, you're actually now a part of the performance. When we open door, technically tonight, Vibration Variations already started. We walked in, we started setting up.
Correct.
I think the ability to treat all of a gig as the gig, rather than just what happens in this 3x2 meter.
Just when you're on stage. There's so much more that happens outside of that and around that.
It's funny how simple little things like the stage being right next to the door completely changes how things flow and vibe. We've had people at gigs, performers, be hesitant to perform on a stage that is right next to the door. And you had to explain to them, see how you go. Because it's going to be a very different vibe, but you might come to love it. And it's true that, people are walking on stage, people are walking through the door, we're on stage, and certain MCs who are particularly good at it, you're one of them, is always ready to, draw attention to them and bring them into that experience. I think that's an underrated part of this little setup here.
Yeah, it's one of the endearing things about Gummo as well, Cafe Gummo, which we might be playing at in a week, next week, potentially. We'll see how it goes. But similar setup with the door open near the stage. That's an interesting point that somebody was scared about.
I guess coming from
next to the
if
door.
you're coming from if you're a bit more seasoned perhaps, and you're kind of coming at it from I need your attention. The door creates that there's people just passing by in front of you, which is definitely strange.
It's a physical metaphor for openness.
Phenomenal. Yeah. But absolutely. And I think there's so much of it that also comes with experience, right? I think there's some people who, in this case, I think I remember who you're talking about. It was a gig we had, and same thing. It was we had to move from one spot to another. And it was that concern of it's going to detract from our attention and our performance. And when you're used to a certain type of gig, and once you become ingrained in I need it to be at the very back of the venue, people need to go through one or two checkpoints, it's ticketed and things like that, and you're used to that. Then suddenly the idea of a glass door, as there is at Usu, that people are already looking at you, they might slide it open and walk right on in, that factors in, I think is I guess it's a product of again, getting used to something or momentum or inertia.
Well, because that's the kind of thing that will definitely disrupt momentum if you're not, I guess, quite seasoned. The Bar Usu door is quite the thing because I guess they walk in and then they walk right past.
Into a dance floor, into an active dance floor.
So I mean that's almost the worst nightmare because that person is going to distract whatever's happening on stage unless it's so happening and wild that nothing can get in its way.
It's interesting actually seeing even as a crowd member though as well. Often you'll see people hovering by the door, oh, can I come in? Am I allowed to do that? And I see it here all the time. People stand in the doorway and oh, I feel a bit. Which
it's not for me kind of thing,
I feel weird as well walking in here
and
seeing a crowd full of people staring right here. If they just turn their head 10 degrees, they are all looking directly at you.
Right.
As just a random punter, if you just come in for a quiet drink, that is quite confronting.
I feel that's even more confronting than the person on stage doing their thing because you're meant to have the attention, but they're oh my God, I don't want to go to a bar or whatever for everyone to see me, go and have a drink, I guess.
Do you... Interesting. All right, so this has got me thinking then about crowd participation. When I'm on stage, I don't mind. I'm not one for huge interaction with the audience, but the thought of being interacted with by the performer on stage for me as an audience member is terrifying to me, far more than being on the stage itself. I would rather be on the stage front facing everybody than being called out within the audience. And I think that's just being a quieter person, preferred to be a bit under the radar in that situation. But as two people who do interact with the audience a lot more, does this still ever go through your mind? And do you care? Or is it probably worth not thinking about while you're up here?
As an audience member?
No, as someone, or actually as both.
Yeah, as
more
both.
as the performer calling out, like interacting with the audience member.
I think for me it is very much that ethos that every single person that's privy to the sound, that is visually like insight, is a part of that performance. So I think this venue has really heightened that for me, where one time as MC, I actually just said to the crowd, like, anyone that kind of looks hesitant to walk in, if I can't see them, I need you guys to like call them in. Let's bring people into this experience.
We did it and it worked.
We did it and it worked, and it's a great time. And I'd like, call it hubris, but I believe that what we're doing here is awesome.
Yeah.
Even the light went on in that moment. What we're doing here is a really awesome experience for the participants, for the audience, for random strangers that walk in. I believe that as many people as possible should be allowed to experience that, should be invited and encouraged to experience that. So for me, it's like, my mission is, of course, I guide the people through this night as best as possible, but get more people to have a better night as a result of coming in. So for me, I'll always try and engage those people. Anyone walking in, while I'm mid-sentence about something, I'll make that sentence about them. And that's just that sort of improv, go with the flow kind of mentality. In terms of being in the audience, if someone is like calling out, like I used to be, and I still can get around the odd heckle, or if I just feel like it's the right thing that's going to move it along. But again, I try to see it as holistic. I'm not trying to tear someone down. I'm trying to see like, what can I say that's going to contribute to their bit.
Add to.
One time we were at a Highlander bar, and there was a comedy night, and we were there to chat business with someone. So already it was like a bad recipe. And we were hanging out with this character, and we were just chatting, and there's someone trying to do, early stages
Keyword
stand-up.
being
Right.
And,
Is this the day that I'm thinking about?
I think so.
Yeah, cool.
And
I have no idea what we're
this
talking
person decided that that they were just going to pick on some members of the audience.
Me.
Maybe you weren't there. They decided to pick on you.
Yeah.
I was there as well. And there's something about men who wear hats like balding. So at the time, I actually had clean shaved hair. So she kind of went around and she went like, "Hey, you, how old are you?" I was like 30, and you picked it. And so I had a bald head, and I thought I'm helping her.
Right.
All she wanted was the 30. All she wanted was the number, and she already didn't have a good follow up to it. So for me, I'm like, if you're gonna call on me, I'm going to like find a way to elevate for you, like,
Because you're looking to play in that moment.
Yeah, that's it. How can we throw open as many opportunities as possible? So for me, audience participation is integral. Whether it's clapping or clicking, that to me counts as part of the performance as well.
For sure.
And it's the transfer of energy going back and forth. To me, it's so essential. But Dilly, you're a master of energy manipulation and warping.
So I'll start from like the audience perspective. So if I'm watching somebody, unless I'm so familiar with them that I feel that like I can add to the thing, like I'm going to be pretty. I prefer to have my time just to watch and enjoy, than trying to be on or part of it or whatever. I do like to blend into the background, a bit. Here is a bit different because we're performing and kind of doing this thing with our friends, and we also there's a combination of like good energy, but also wanting to be supportive and like adding to it. All right, there, good to see, good to be, all right, just. Random patrons.
That's a perfect time for that to happen during this little
you want to
conversation.
come join the podcast? So as an audience member, unless I'm real familiar with like any of you guys, like if Rhath like is on stage doing his thing, and as you said before, looking for moments of roast, if there was like something that popped up in that moment that I feel like Rhath could probably take on stage, it isn't going to like mess up your flow and momentum. Happy to do that. When it comes to being on stage and encouraging the crowd participation, I feel like I'm just so beyond open to crowd participation. I'm always longing for it, but I've never received like my fill or enough. So I'm I'm always kind of waiting for more, whether it is like heckle or bad energy or any kind of resistance, pushback, input. But I feel like for whatever reason, people just maybe seem to be a little, I don't know if like they're in shock or they're a little bit like unsettled or put off sometimes by, it takes them a little time to kind of maybe blend with what I'm doing for them to jump on board. Harder for a first time, I think.
Not to call you out, but this fiddling might be coming through on the mic if you're just like. There's a lot of like noise every time, during every podcast, and I just minimize.
Cool.
Put your hands in your lap. I'm kidding. Put your hands with you.
Any particular golden moments of the worst heckle you've gotten or the worst interaction with an audience member you've ever gotten?
Yeah, I can vaguely remember that. I think that you were there. I'm not sure if you were MASH. It was at Gummo. It was a gig that D-Rab was putting on. And he had put on like Jordan Barker, myself, somebody else, and this guy named Mods. Actually, should I name names? Anyway,
you've gone and done it.
Well, we can go on and edit.
I'm not editing that.
So this dude, he was performing. Anyway, so the night was starting.
That's one of them.
It's so funny. I'm out here to out them all. So one was meant to perform, comes late. D-Rad has to go first earlier to cover that person. Pushes them back. So this person comes late with their partner, who was deranged.
Oh, this...
It comes back with their partner. So they're late. He puts in the USB, and the USB isn't working. D-Rad's like, well, we've been there, we tried it. It was my laptop, like everything was running through my laptop. So I tried it on 2 computers. We tried it on a Mac on a PC, just no dice. And we're like, dude, do you have it anywhere else? He's like, it's in the USB. And then like, he was kind of mad about it. Then he was like, oh, just let me freestyle my set. And Dylan's like, it's not what I signed up for. You know what I mean? Like,
quick public service announcement. 2 USBs every single time.
Yeah.
Have it backed up online in preferably 2 places.
Cloud storage. Your mobile phone at the least.
We have a whole episode, if not 2 of them.
Yeah.
The one in the car, we were talking about how to prep for a gig. And there was another one, how to have a great live performance. It's got like a purple thing. Go and check those out. I'll put the links up here. Go and hit those.
The absolute worst thing you can do is rock up to a gig and not have your music.
Be so over prepared.
At
least like it doesn't exist if you don't have it in 2 or more places.
No.
It's not even there.
No.
Anyway, so essentially he misses out on his gig. So, but he's standing, he's there with their partner and they're drinking and whatever. Anyway, the partner becomes like quite loud and like I've got nothing, like not a bad history with that person, like vaguely familiar and friendly with that person, but she was just shouting at me during the performance, or to the point where I just had to like
I didn't see
actually
this
say and acknowledge something. Just be like, all right, just keep it down in the front so I can do my raps kind of thing.
Oh my God.
That's probably the worst. I've never had somebody be like, what the fuck are you doing up there, you absolute imbecile? Who are you kidding? Yeah, you are the Joker. You're the joke,
I feel like with music, it'd be hard. It's a lot less likely to get that.
Yeah, and we encourage such a supportive environment and crew of people that...
Yeah, but also I think you can just get away with a lot with music.
That's true.
Like if you're in comedy, you'll get that. You'll get people telling you your shit and get off the stage.
Because the limitations are quite finite.
Yeah. I think also maybe the attitude is different, especially like a free comedy gig. Not being to many, but just rather listening to comedians talk on podcasts, basically. It sounds more like the attitude of the audience is, this is a free gig, so it doesn't really matter. And also, there's this sense, it's already dialogue, so I can be part of that dialogue. Music, there's a barrier.
Do you reckon that barrier, part of it is purely like, so in a comedy audience, you're going to have people who like funny people and other funny people.
Yeah.
And some of those other funny people are going to see the person on stage and be like, I don't like how funny you are. I'm going to out funny you at your own thing.
That's definitely a part of it, especially the open mic, the comedy scene. Are you kidding me? That's a nightmare. That's what it is. Like, similar in the way that, you do a bunch of smaller gigs, to smaller random crowds, open mics, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you go to a comedy open mic and you're performing to
That's all right.
to more stand-up comedians than more stand-up comedians than like actual audience members for the most part. They're going to be the most critical and almost the most prepared to be like, oh, what's that? Like take any kind of shot. So yeah, that's exactly as you said.
Well, the flip side is, music, what's going to happen? Someone's going to be like, I can rap better than you.
Right.
And they're just going to start rap heckling you?
Yeah.
I mean, now that I've said it...
That happens at the dojo in the sense of people, but
Yeah. But yeah, it is
not on like a
turn-based.
big form,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Whereas, you can't... I think the closest you could get is trying to shout, better rhymes than the person on stage.
Live
really.
at the same
Live
time,
at
yeah.
the same time.
Unless
No
you're
one can hear it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
60% of hip hop gigs, you can't tell what they're saying anyway. So
Yeah.
to be shouting out from as an audience would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Hilarious though. It'd be so
Yeah.
funny to watch.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, like the difference in dynamics between those different settings of performance, and like how the interaction with the audience is completely different in a comedy room compared to somewhere like here. Even though I guess this could be a comedy room as well, but like if the setting is for music, the interaction is vastly different.
Yeah. I guess one thing to... Again, great lighting change. It is just on a random loop.
It's a golden random loop. Oh, I
once-
said golden and it came with golden.
Hey, it's all about synchronicity here today.
Uh-huh.
Where's Amutha when you need her?
Right behind us in
Yeah.
a way.
Hey, damn. So in terms of something to talk about, one thing that I think we can freshly draw on experience from is the sort of quick turnaround. Going, okay, we're in lockdown. We want to create. What do we want to create? How do we want to create it? And actually, spurring into a pretty spontaneous and in you guys' cases, some pretty quick and polished pieces.
Yeah.
He started it.
Yeah.
He started it. All right. So Rai, what was that like? And compare, what's the longest you've ever taken on a project, or how long is the longest project you're working on taking, versus what did it feel like creating during the last 2 weeks snap lockdown?
Longest time on one project, I imagine, would be... This is going to sound like a flex, but I think it's only a few months. But that's in terms of the actual creation, and then there's the mixing process, then there's a lot of back and forth of that, then there's getting the release ready in terms of artwork and all that kind of shit. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think I'm going to compress all the voices, and it'll be messing around with it anyway.
All right, cool.
Anyway, it's his bar. He can. If he wants to put music, he puts on music. I'm not fussed about it.
I
like music.
I don't think it's going to come through too much.
No, I don't
in
think.
these
I think it'll be
mics.
fine.
Yeah.
True.
I think-
This one's pretty.
A bit more on the
It does
sensitive
the
side.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. Because I can understand as
The
soon
wo-
as it's
we'll
recognized,
find
it's
out.
torn down.
Yeah,
We've already got
exactly.
videos demonetized.
Yes.
So it's not really. We're not going to get strikes.
You sure? Yeah. That's true.
Anyway. So more technicalities.
Meta. Sorry, Rai.
So-
a few months for the longest project, you reckon?
Yeah, maybe to 6. Maybe just 6 months.
And what was that project?
That would be Orbits. I think
Okay.
would be the longest.
Latest release.
Latest release on Spotify. Check
Yeah.
it out. Links on my below. I might put them below. I'll forget.
Links on my strong side.
Don't worry about it. But this particular lockdown, I think, came at a perfect time. I'm not sure if this is the answer you were looking for, but this has come at a very big shift in mentality, and I think lockdown came at the right time for that. Of the long process of writing and figuring it out over a 6 months period. I have a very different idea of what I want to do at the start versus what I want to do at the end.
Right.
And this case was we've got 2 weeks of lockdown. At the time when lockdown hit, we only knew we had one.
Right.
And so I was like, there's really no real standard I need particularly hit. This is just for me. So I went in there with that intention of I just want to do this thing to get it out there as quickly as possible. More as an exercise, more just for fun, rather than this is a particular statement or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, that said, it also ended up being quite a statement. There is actually a consistent running theme. I think actually because I worked so quickly on it.
Right.
I think I have a lot more thoughts, but I would rather jump off you guys.
Yeah. It
So-
sounds like your mind was staying within a tight neighborhood for all the creation that you were doing in this short span of time.
Yeah,
so you
because
didn't
it
really
was
get
just-
to venture and stray too far from a central theme.
Yeah, because it just wasn't that long.
Yeah, yep.
The ideas just trickled through.
Yeah, it was. I think I wrote the EP in like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, right.
It's wild.
Um,
And this was coming off a bit of a potential writer's block for you, a bit of a period where it's like
writer's block in the sense of like not enough time.
Right.
I wasn't like I was sitting there trying to write and not coming up with anything. I
Okay.
just didn't feel like that
you just
was
weren't
what I
sitting
was
down
doing.
and writing.
No.
For how
But
long?
It actually worked out really well, and this isn't necessarily good practice, and I'm not sure if I would recommend it, but a break like that for me meant that I came back without all my learnt patterns. So my writing was different, my flows are different, my cadence was different, because I just went into the booth, and also I changed how I write. I wrote in the booth rather than pen, then to booth.
All right.
And I think because of that, without the patterns that I was in, because if you play, for example, playing guitar when I was younger, playing guitar every single day, I ended up just hating playing guitar because I would play the same thing every single day.
Right.
And I know there's ways out of that I just didn't take. But this particular time where I just took a break worked out fantastically. Also, I wanted to fuck with people.
Yeah, yep.
Also, I wanted to show people the like, this is where I'm at now, and you guys all need to step up. Not that I was like above everyone, but I did feel that for the first time, that challenge of hip hop of like, I can do this. Well, what can you guys do?
Nice.
And I saw the response.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we surround ourselves with powerhouses all the time. You know, and yeah. So, Rise made a 5-track EP. If you haven't gathered that already from
Yeah.
this conversation, and what is it called?
Groundswell.
Groundswell. And it's quite thematic, and like you've changed a whole lot of the old patterns of Wrath, and you've generated some new stuff, some new flavors in there, and it's really good. It's a step up in many things, but I think like it shows.
Also available as NFTs on
Yeah.
OpenSea.
Oh, yeah.
Check me
Yeah.
out, Wrath, OpenSea.
OpenSea, you can already see it
Make that money.
coming into the bank account, which is nice. Anyway, facts aside. So yeah, and also like a meta theme for this whole bit of conversation is the Sixpence effect.
Oh, yeah.
So all of these tracks that Ryan and I have recently been jamming on by Sixpence. So he offered up, I guess, Vibe Union a folder of 160 or so tracks. This has been explained to many, but not to all. So yeah, we're faced with a lockdown. I'm always talking with Rye. Just before lockdown happened, I was, oh God. Was it just before lockdown when I came over and you're like, I've started writing these tracks, I've started digging into, so
Yeah.
you'd started chipping away just before, like the first lockdown?
I would have gotten 2 songs recorded just before the lockdown.
Yeah. And this is still in like a very short period of time, like a few days that you've done that.
Yeah, it was like 3 days
Yeah.
before the lockdown.
So I came over, I heard these 2 tracks, and I'm like, this is new Wrath, new Rye.
Yeah.
This is cool. Also, like, it all sounded good and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh yeah, I've like written another 3. I'm going to do a 5-track EP. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I've been working on my 5-track EP for like a year.
Yeah.
Well, not like, you know.
I've been secretly holding you back at every turn.
It's worked. It's worked until now. If you did all this under the down low and then just released it out of nowhere, I'd be like, well, I don't have anything to reply or like
Yeah.
no thing to come back
I am
with.
facilitating
reckon-
your reply, though. I'm facilitating your
I
response.
mean, yeah, you are, but you know, we're having very different conversations when it comes to the sounds of the tracks. You know what I mean? So I guess we can't directly compete, but I've picked a bunch of Sixpence tracks in. I've got 4 tracks down in terms of pretty much full mixed by yours truly. They're pretty much sitting. We'll mix them together, but so that's happened. And in terms of the process of doing it in such a short period of time, having that limitation of like, all right, 2 weeks. What can you do in 2 weeks? Write us this and this amount of time. I just went for it, and then like, I did some different ways of capturing bars and like in the writing process. You were talking about how you were doing more recording in the booth, and instead of just like writing and then taking it to the booth. There's elements of that in what I do, but also what I was doing was going outside, like helping out around the my parents' property and just doing kind of pretty light manual labor, I guess. Listening to my stuff by the stuff, I mean the instrumentals. And I'd have an audio recorder because I was wearing gloves and all this kind of stuff raking. And what would happen is I'd be listening to the tracks, a bar would come to my mind, I'd try and figure it out, and then I'd get the audio recorder out, record it, and then put it away. And then afterwards, after doing that for 4 or so hours, I collected 20 or more of these bars of these segments that just fit, that just worked out. So yeah. Anyway, I got completely sidetracked. It's just as soon as you do, it feels like we got so lost inside this world of making this thing in a short period of time, and so invested in that it's hard to articulate it at this point.
But I feel like you summed it up way better than either of us did. That there's not enough time to get out of it. So you just get it done in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Doing a long project is cool, is great. However, I actually realized doing this EP, listening to some podcasts recently as well, talking about it, funnily enough, synchronicity, that I work fast. I like working fast. That's how Vibe Union has always worked. That's how we started Vibe Union, because we started as doing a track a week during the first big lockdowns.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a compromise in quality. However, for me, I think it's more like I don't have time to second guess it. I just have to make those snap decisions, and you start relying on your intuition. Sometimes when you're practicing, take your time. Figure out the difference between creating and practicing. When you're practicing, I think, take your time, master your craft, figure that kind of thing out. But when you're in that moment, I think the last thing you need is to be second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
And that is huge for me, because that's my biggest fault when it comes to freestyling. When it comes to socializing, any thoughts in my brain, there's a 90% chance it's going to be second guessing what's about to come out of my mouth. But when I shorten that period of time, so when I do end up freestyling, in the moment, that's the most freeing thing I can ever experience. I think same with creating that quickly.
Something about both of your sort of retellings of that is the this idea that it's an exercise. That's what you said.
Yeah.
For the exercise of it, I'm going to make this EP. Did you know going in that it was going to be those 5 beats, those 5 tracks?
No.
You just started making and then went, cool, this is done now.
Yeah.
And same for you. Did you know that it was going to be 5? Did it need to be a responsive 5?
I had already listened to a few of Sixpence's beats before coming across this EP idea. So I just had to crunch ice for a bit. It was good. It was worth it. No, I had to be okay, I'm going to do 5 or 6 tracks. I was going to do 5 or 6 tracks. So I listened to a bunch being 1, what do I like? 2, do they sound like they come from the same world? And that did kind of work out, cool. I feel like what I've picked fits together.
And it sounds like it was more a series of snap, instinct-based decisions, quick yes-nos that get you to a point of cool, these are the beats. All right, sweet. Now I'm out working. Cool, that's a bar. Record it. Cool, that's the thing. Do that.
Don't question intuition.
Yeah.
Be unapologetic. Be some people might take the position of be uncompromising with your standards of quality. But it's if you do the thing enough times, you're going to get to the point where every single time you do it, it's good quality.
Yeah. Nice. That's really well said. And I think getting to that point where you can trust whatever your output is going to be, that it's authentic, I think is really big.
That too as well, keyword authenticity.
Yeah. So that's a really cool insight into how to create sort of rapidly, because I think where I'm getting quite stuck and have been since day one is I've got the concept first. I've got what is the grand goal? What is the audience member walking away? I'm starting at that point of it being received and working backwards.
Interesting.
And it comes from, when I was studying teaching, that would be the sort of the way you would prepare a lesson plan, for example.
Right.
Think about what it is that you want the student to learn from the exercise. You want them to learn how to do their times tables. Okay, sick. With that in mind, now work backwards.
Yeah.
What do they need to do? They need to do an exercise that has multiplication in it. This and that.
Right.
And so by the time you get back to the start, at its core, really, you just need a vehicle to deliver a bunch of questions of like 6x4 and shit.
Yeah.
But how do you make it interesting in between? And I quite like that process because I know what the outcome needs to be, and I just keep checking and rechecking against that.
It's so funny. It's completely the opposite way to why I do it. For me, the outcome is always like this interesting surprise at the end. Like, I wonder what's going to happen. But it sounds like you write very similar to the way that D-Rad writes, which is like there's like a theme, overarching theme, or like a goal or an end point that we want to get to.
Yep.
How do we get there? And then I think you both get really particular about how you're going to get there.
Oh yeah.
Which is cool, like because the path that you carve through that way is it is intricate, complex, it's layered, and it's all pointing towards the same thing.
Yep.
Instead of it being like more of a I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here, I guess they're just different approaches and you can swap them around. Like I think that you're as capable of doing it both ways. I very rarely be like, I want the audience to feel this when I'm writing this. It's just like, what am I drawing from?
Can we see it as a difference of two types of sculpture? So there's the version of sculpture that's a bit more like collage, which is like, now I've got this piece and I'm going to attach it to
you're
like
reducing
this.
my art to a collage. Great, I'm kidding.
Paper mache, would you prefer that? Just strips of glued newspaper?
Depends on the colors and the hold.
It's just all around a balloon. And just like a watercolored face. The idea of sort of, are we starting with a slab of granite and chipping away at it?
Yeah, and you've got the schematics. You do the schematics, and I got no time for schematics.
Well, that's it. But that's exactly it. Is like then when you don't have time or when you want to get something out quickly, it's not possible.
You trip over yourself.
Approach, massively.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to sand this bit down flawlessly, or I'm going to wait until I have the tool to sand this bit down flawlessly. Until then, I'm not proceeding.
Yeah,
and that's where I've got so many projects stuck. Where it's like I have all of the pieces for this one particular track. Everything's there, but it's not quite there. And it needs the right moment, the right circumstance, and all that kind of stuff, and gets really stuck in that. And then I'm like also just someone who is happy to flip to the next thing. So the moment a new idea comes to me, boom, I'm doing that now.
I'm big on that too. Unfortunately, I'm forever derailing myself and podcast conversations too.
In all of it. I decided when we hit our first lockdown, I was like, okay, you know what? This is happening. I'm gonna make an album about lockdown and quarantine. I'm gonna call it 40 Days, and it's gonna be about quarantine. Literally is like a 40-day period. And
why
all
not
that
40
jazz.
days and 40 nights?
It was that was going to be incorporated in the third act and all that.
Yes.
So I think I've shown you this thing. I like sat down and plotted the whole thing out. I had like a word cloud, a brain dump.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, cool. I've got 10 emotions to deal with. And then those 10 emotions lead to 10 songs. This is the journey. This is all of this stuff. And everything was there, right? So and then I went, okay, as I'm going through each of these feelings of like mistrust or rage or whatever, as I'm going through these things, I'm going to write each of these songs. And I got to about number 6. And number 6, the whole concept was like some degree of optimism, right? Like the clouds, it stopped raining sort of thing of like, maybe the clouds are going to part, maybe it's going to get brighter.
Right.
And as I started work on that song, an opportunity came up to do a show for Melbourne Fringe Festival.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to go do Fringe now and just drop the album completely.
Yeah.
And just like, it's just there. It's in the back of my head. I've gone and revisited and like plugged a few things in here and there.
Yeah.
But overall, I just got stuck in that moment because actually I was so wedded to living in and having that feeling that I haven't even bothered to find a way to communicate it yet. Because I'm actually just enjoying the optimism. And I've gone through all the remaining steps. I'm going to do one of the songs that's like the final bookend. But
you're planning future possibilities that you haven't lived through.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you were on the right path, so the lived experience came and been like, let's do this now. And you're like, well, let's do this now.
Let's just do this now.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Interesting,
it.
the quick comparison to that for me, and maybe just a quick take on that of like, don't be afraid, I think, to take what you've got and to tear it apart and find a new home for it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it might
well
all be
said.
separate projects and different and disconnected, but everything is made by us, and we are all thinking, we are all living within our own particular world. Like every song, every creation that we make is somehow tied to us. And so there is always this interwoven connection,
Yeah.
even if it's really, really subtle. Vibe Union, just before it started, I was working on a 5-track or maybe 6-track collaborative EP, and that was going to be my next release after an EP, as like kind of okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what I can do with others. And then Vibe Union started, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to take all of these songs, and there was only one on there I didn't use. Most of those songs actually became season 1 Vibrations.
Yeah.
So Vibe Union in its current state would not exist without me tearing apart that thing. So like
Abandoning one
bless
project
off-
to start another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bless off for my
Hell yeah.
what was the word I was looking for?
What was it called? The collaborative project.
Can't remember. I don't think I had a name for it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, shout outs and bless up.
Yeah, well done.
I was going to try and be snarky about it, but I couldn't think of the word, so I just looked like an asshole.
Well, what
Point
do we learn, right?
let's
No need
just
to be snarky.
But I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to tear one thing down in name of something else.
Yeah, repurpose.
Repurpose.
You know, destruction makes things new again. Recycling is the new norm.
That's great.
Is that...
Yeah. So, look, I guess circling back, what have we spoken about today? I mean, for one, we've shouted out the fact that Lyrebird Lounge is an incredible spot. Come down, check it out. If you're Melbourne-based. If you're not Melbourne-based, thank you for tuning in. We love
Yes,
you.
yes.
We love you if you're Melbourne-based as well, of course. But like, come hang out at Lyrebird with us. It's been great, like building the audience and the community that we have. That feeling of like how to engage with an audience. This dynamic is one we're still trying to figure out, and we really appreciate anyone's input on how it is. We're thinking about how can we do giveaways? How can we give you more value as someone who's watching or listening? So if you are watching or listening and you're like, hey, I want something more, please let us know what more you would like from us. We'd be more than happy to pitch in and do some of that.
Tell us what you want from Daddy.
Dilly Dad.
Dilly Daddy.
Dilly Daddy.
Sorry, Rye. I
said I
think I
wouldn't
ruined
edit.
your whole podcast experience.
What would you say? We just need to scrap it and start again?
Scrap it.
Let's use these stems for a remix project.
Yeah, turn this into a clip show. 5 minutes.
God. And then from there, we spoke about like how to create for the exercise of creation. If you're like me, if you're someone who struggles to just kind of get something out into the world because you spend too much time sort of second guessing it. Well, one, like don't second guess, like trust intuition. You said, Dilly, that was a great one. Don't trip over yourself and just get it down, put it out.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough, you iterate and reiterate enough.
Yeah.
We spoke a lot. I remember we used to talk about iteration and reiteration a lot when we were releasing weekly. Just do it, because eventually your workflow just becomes sharper. So the
Right.
next time that you need a mix, it's just going to sound like a better mix. And by the end of the whole project, go back from, if you want to go back to the start and hit it again. But yeah.
We also talked
Dilly.
about getting in the minds of both the performer and the audience for a little bit as well. Yeah, I mean, as with most things, people have different approaches, and trial and test until you figure out your approach.
I think that's the key thing for me is find your workflow, find your approach, and do not be too precious about the work until it hits a certain level.
Yeah.
We all want to write a masterpiece. I don't think anyone knows they're writing a masterpiece until it's finished.
Yeah.
I think you need to constantly keep moving, otherwise you're never going to get to that point.
Well said. Can't plan for a masterpiece, or can you?
Not successfully yet. Haven't had one.
Time will tell.
Lots of plans, lots of blueprints. Well, look, thank you as always for tuning in. You are incredible. Thank you, Kelsey, for the incredible support,
Thanks,
both moral,
Kelsey.
physical,
Appreciate
and fluid. That was wrong.
Alcoholic fluid.
That helps. And it's been great. And in the week to come check us out at Talking Blue at Ronnie's Blue Bar on Wednesday night. Hopefully, fingers crossed. More information to come on that.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because this is all subject to change.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Very
But,
true.
All the stuff going on.
Thursday, hopefully at Cafe Gummo with Mad Stalk. Others.
Fresh Violet, I
Fresh
think, is
Violet,
on the lineup
yes,
there.
she is.
Sirach Abu's there as well.
Sirach
Sweet
is
dude.
what I've heard, what I've seen firsthand is actually a wild performer.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I don't, obviously you've been privy.
No idea.
He's something else.
He's something else. So, yeah, stay tuned through all
And
the
then
socials.
Saturday, Dusty Sessions at 303.
Yeah.
A new night full of folk music and blues. We've got Jon, Kelsey Jean, Georgia Delaney Martin, and
Nathan
Abbey.
Yeah.
Booyah.
Yeah, nailed it.
It's going to be a damn fine time. So thank you for tuning in. Stay safe. Love one another. And we'll catch you on the flip side.